gamers. My brother, Isaac here, I feel like I've referenced in a lot of videos, is visiting me right now in my home, and I wanted to do another one of these second channel videos, and I kind of wanted to talk about Zelda. We've just been doing a lot of stuff, so I haven't had a lot of time to play it, but I'm probably like a quarter of the way through. Isaac's beaten it. I've dabbled in Diablo. We've been playing a lot of Street Fighter, and we're bad. We're very bad. Yeah, I'm like a quarter of the way through. Just for anyone watching this, like in whatever B-roll I'm going to show, like I won't show anything other than what Nintendo has already shown in like the directs and stuff. And yeah, and also as far as discussion, like keeping it very much basic, that you don't have to worry about spoilers unless you want to go in absolutely blind and you somehow haven't already seen like the ads or even the back of the game case showing some of the stuff. Isaac has already he's done his time in Zelda. He served the kingdom. Obviously has a lot of thoughts, but ones he can't share with you or me because I haven't beat it. But for the tutorial stuff, it's very much Breath of the Wild too. It's not like Twilight Princess to Wind Waker or something like that. Like it very much is. If you liked how Breath of the Wild felt, if you liked how Breath of the Wild's UI worked, or if you didn't like it, you are still not going to like it, or you still love it.
Yeah, and I definitely noticed that right away of being in the starting area, of like, oh wait, this is all exactly the same. Like, I'm excited to go pick up these things, pick up this bow and see how it is. Oh, nope, it's all the same.
A lot of the UX, like UI experience for the layman is pretty bad. Well, it's not bad because it's like, it's still intuitive enough, but just that there were clear problems in being able to sort items or quickly eat to heal yourself, or, do quick changes to your favorite weapons or set. That was something I was doing. Going back to appealing to if you have played Breath of the Wild and if you haven't played Breath of the Wild. If you haven't played Breath of the Wild, you don't really know what to expect. So whether you like the tutorial or not, and we were talking with someone that actually hadn't played Breath of the Wild and still thought that the tutorial to Tears of the Kingdom was a bit slow and was just like, I am getting annoyed by that it's hard to climb places and my stamina is low, and just I like that they could just tell that there's more to the game than just these islands, whether they've seen trailers or friends play it, and they're just like, I'm over it, like this is taking too long. And I think that was a lot of Billy's complaints having played Breath of the Wild. And so I think that is interesting crossover, because the thing about Breath of the Wild is a lot of people were into it for different reasons. Like Bowden played it and he loved catching horses. I barely did anything with the horses. All I wanted to do was climb stuff, so I maxed the stamina immediately and kept making stamina stuff. Like, I know what I liked and what I liked getting out of this game, and so the fact that it is preventing me from doing a lot of that for a considerable amount of time at the beginning, depending on how quickly you do the tutorial, and that it can be pretty long and that you can find stuff or miss stuff. And also, if just like you're not super crazy about some of the new mechanics, like I totally get how it can feel like a bit more of a slog than the Great Plateau. Yeah.
And again, I mean, is part of that just come down to going back to people that have played Breath of the Wild or haven't. I mean, I guess like you said, you talk to somebody who said it felt like a slog, even though they hadn't played
it's anecdotal, right? That it's one person.
What I was interested in was learning about the new powers and learning about the things that they had added into the game, and like what new challenges they were doing and how they were designing around these new powers. Going through the tutorial was what the rest of the game was going to be like for me, because I'm like, I'm interacting with the tools that I'm going to get, and I'm building that skill, and that's very satisfying. Like, I didn't feel like I was being held back from doing what I wanted to do.
And I think what was interesting is this is the type of shit that I think it would be really, comment down below, but for real, it's like, it's just so interesting to talk about of whether you've played it or not. I mean, hopefully that you've played it to talk about this shit. I don't know what I'm saying, but
whether you've played Breath of the Wild as well.
Whether you played Breath of the Wild or not, but you've at least done the tutorial in Tears of the Kingdom. I'm super interested to hear how you felt about the tutorial. I felt very much in between of feeling like it's a slog and feeling like really engaged, in that I think that feeling of disappointment that a lot of the core weapons and stuff is the same, and that I know how much better it is to have a big stamina wheel. I know how liberating it is to have the glider, and having that shit taken away from you is kind of the cliched thing in a lot of sequels of like, oh, you lose all your powers at the start. And so there's a little bit of taste of that I was like, come on, just let me get to the good stuff. But like you were saying, as I started engaging with the new stuff more, that slowly turned around. And once I finished the tutorial and I was getting in it, I was like, okay. And as far as like thoughts beyond that, I'll probably reserve that because I'm still kind of figuring out that like there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons in my head already. Yeah, I would be super interested to just read different opinions or different experiences with the tutorial of like, is it your first Zelda? Did you feel like you understood stuff? Did you feel like it was too long or too limiting or confusing?
Even outside of the tutorial, knowing that it's an open world and knowing that you can come across any part of it, almost any part of it, without going anywhere else. So like you can show up in an area and you may not have any of the like 10 different ways that you could solve this thing. So they pretty much always have to have something there to let you get through a particular challenge. A lot of times it's like, oh yeah, you need to start this thing on fire. So they throw you some flint. That kind of design, that sounds so hard to me. Of they solved a lot of their issues by, same as Breath of the Wild, just giving you all the like powers on the tutorial, like up front, all of that stuff.
So they know in whatever direction you go in, like they're gonna have all of the stuff.
It's still hilarious to me the way that the shrines work out, especially the tutorial ones of like the combat ones, because they're not necessarily all right by the starting area.
No.
And some of them are somewhat hidden, so it wasn't until like, 100 hours in that I found one of the combat tutorial shrines that was like, did you know you can shoot your bow?
Yeah.
Did you know that you can get slow-mo?
That's what this does the whole time? I mean, to be fair, there probably is some stuff in this game for some people that they will find or discover at the end.
We just thought.
Yeah, and they'll be like, Dad, you can fucking jump! I would really like to talk about it with you once we can both actually just raw.
Oh, yeah.
Just go full, like, the part where fucking Link gets shin splints.
Oh, jeez.
Isaac hasn't played any Diablo 4, but I've dipped my toes, and, like, we played a bit of Diablo 3 on console because me and Isaac both, like, neither of us played Diablo 1 or 2 or 3, like, on PC and ever got used to, like, clicking to move or, like, play League of Legends or other...
I mean, I played through the campaign Path of Exile. Like, I put in the time.
I forget about it. Like, you did the mouse and keyboard.
I did. Like, I made my way through that. And the campaign, I mean, if you talk to anybody who is seriously into Path of Exile, they'll be like, oh, the campaign is just the tutorial. Like, once you get to the end game, that's the actual game. And I was like,
that's a thing that I appreciate of Diablo 4 is that it's open world now and the campaign is a lot longer. So even like if you're someone like me that's a bit more casual that probably will do the grind to beat the campaign on maybe World Tier 2, maybe do it again on another World Tier, like this time it's enough content where if you are just in it for the story, which fortunately is like a lot more interesting because those look like the things from Bloodborne, the celestial.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
jellyfish.
They look like just like them.
Yeah,
I think a big thing for me is that like playing Hades or like just other top-down action games, there's so much more about the like you're dodging and you're slashing and it's this and that, and there's not as much like there's definitely synergies with the different powers you get and stuff, but like I think that it wasn't until playing a bit of Diablo 4 that my dumbass realized that like, why do people like just like clicking and mashing buttons? Like I want to hit a button and feel the impact of the sword or whatever, that realizing like, no, the game is fun because you are managing all these different things, and the mastery comes of remembering the cooldowns and remembering that this ability affects this ability and I have this mod on it and whatever, and very similar to Destiny. Yeah. That is really fun. But I think a reason why we've gotten pretty into Destiny recently is like you have those things going on of the different builds, but also the second to second shooting just feels amazing for like a billion hours. Yeah.
No, I mean, there's a reason that we can go and be on the moon just fighting the same enemies for like over an hour and be like, yeah, you guys want to do another round?
Yeah.
The last couple of times we have actually done more like Gambit and some more of the PvP, which was more fun. But I remember when we tried it before, it just felt so hard. And I think some of the biggest differences was getting those exotics and getting more into these builds. Because the moment to moment feels really good until you go up against something that is just a sponge. Because you're sitting there and you're shooting it for minutes and it's like, wow, why isn't this thing dying? Why am I not making any progress on that?
And that's actually a really interesting point of like something like Destiny where it has more of a immediate response, like I'm hitting this and it's shooting and it's this and that. Not that Diablo doesn't have that to an extent, but that when it comes to having, if it's just a boss that is a sponge and maybe it has some attacks you have to dodge or whatever, that's something that I feel like might actually be better in Diablo because you are more engaged with the cooldowns and stuff.
Right.
Versus in Destiny, you're for the most part just going to be shooting and then reloading and then shooting or maybe chaining this stuff together. But like, because your defensive options aren't really as interesting, the Venn diagram is that you have a dodge in this that doesn't have iframes, and in Destiny you can get a dodge that also doesn't have iframes, but they're both still really good for positioning. And I think there are different types of boots you can get in Diablo that I'm really interested to find that like give you double roll or whatever.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it the other day. In Destiny specifically, I wonder if the dodge doesn't have iframes just because of PvP. Because, I mean, again, that their whole design is that, yeah, everything is viable for PvE and PvP, which, like we say, they're very different games.
Right. And both very fun games.
Yeah, both very fun games, but they're so different. And going into PvP, that when we tried to do it before, that might have been before there was the skill-based matchmaking. I think that was also part of it, is we were getting matched up with people who were running exotics.
They were just farting on us.
Yeah, you would come around a corner and just get headshot. And
it's like I've never even seen that gun before.
Right. And dealing with that was awful. But the last couple times that we played, I don't know if we just got ranked better or where we were at, that it was actually pretty fun and was able to get some kills.
And also we're playing with Cameron.
Yeah, that's playing with another person, and that's probably been the biggest factor of us getting back into it, is that he got sucked in. And actually him figuring things out so that when we come in and we go, oh, what are we doing? He can explain it to us, because there is a lot of stuff that I'm like, wait, how does that work?
It's a really valuable resource. It's super hard to get into something like that.
I mean, it's just like with Dark Souls when you started it.
Yeah. No, exactly. Having a resource that, it's one thing to look stuff up, but like disregarding spoilery stuff, but it's nice to just have a friend that is just like, I feel like a lot of people that might end up watching this video will probably have a similar experience of like, oh yeah, my one friend that's really into Magic the Gathering or XYZ, you know, to me that's Billy. My one friend that I kissed. Me, him, and Isaac went crazy on Division 2 of all games, which actually ended up being really fun. With all its jank and everything, the like Destiny, the moment-to-moment gunplay just felt so good, and they did such a better job of constantly just being like, hey, here's an event. Well, go get this
not only that, I didn't play the first one, but you specifically talked about how the first one just felt very spongy. And then in 2, they did a really good job of just throwing a bunch of dudes at you that are weaker, and that's so much more fun.
It's the same as Diablo. Yeah. Is that it's like, it feels like such an obvious thing, and obviously it's not a one-size-fits-all for every game, but I feel like me and you, we talk about that of like the Left 4 Dead thing or Diablo or Division, that it's so much more fun to me that when I shoot a shotgun, that it actually kills someone in one hit, but there's just a bunch of them versus one guy that takes fucking 20 shots from a shotgun, you know. That's your leg.
And it is very different skills to manage that, and depending on the game, like Doom Eternal, right, like that whole game is dealing with the different types of enemies and getting around that environment and the order that you want to do it and where your positioning is and all of that. Like it's a fun balance.
Yeah.
I'm getting very distracted by this video.
No, me too. It's making me want to play. But another thing that me and Isaac did while he's been here, dungeon crawling gameplay. I feel like we might get too distracted by that.
Yeah.
We played the Final Fantasy 16 demo. What we were talking about last night with Sean. We were talking about Final Fantasy 16 because I was like, oh, what have you been playing? And blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, the demo is really good. Like, I played it with Isaac, and it seems like, oh, I'm actually kind of interested. And he was like, yeah, it's good, but God, would they shut the fuck up? Or he said something like that. And I like grabbed him by his collar, and I was like, thank you. I feel so vindicated. For context, I'm not trying to be like a fucking contrarian or whatever. Me and Isaac talk about this. That like, I've talked about it in videos that specifically me and you, like, of the goopy goblin gamer brain that like super impatient. When play video games, I really just want gameplay. I feel like I'm kind of a curmudgeon when it comes to stories, because a lot of video games, let's be real, just have pretty shitty writing. And like in Final Fantasy 16, the thing is that the story, like the narrative and the characters and stuff, they actually seem like pretty interesting once they get into it.
Right.
But what Sean said and what I agreed with and why I like grabbed his collar and I was like, thank you, is because like reading on Reddit and stuff, like a lot of people are like, oh, it's just, I was immediately gripped and it just held me, and I really liked how they showed all the characters, and it's like, that's awesome. And I get that it's tutorial stuff, but but specifically in like a cinematic, like you're watching, then you're playing, you're watching, you're playing. There are moments in the demo where they'll have this like bombastic cutscene. Maybe you're doing like a QTE or something, but probably not. And then it'll go to gameplay, and the gameplay will just be like not even a super tutorial thing, like here's how you swing your sword, which you get to, but you'll just be like holding forward. And I shit you not, it'll be for like 10 seconds. And then there's another cutscene. And it's like, I'm okay with there being cutscenes, but why isn't that just all a cutscene? Like why, or the same thing of like, you go to open a door and it does this QTE of like hold R2 with the haptics and then hit it. And it's not like there's an invisible loading screen.
No.
It's just an extra unnecessary step. And again, it's goopy goblin shit, but like, I think verbatim he was like, the combat's fucking amazing. And like, but I just wish they would shut up. And it's like, yeah, not in that like, don't tell a story, shut up. Because I feel the same way about Zelda. Like, no, tell a story, but like, just be more cost effective with or not cost, but you know what I mean. More
edited, concise.
Yeah.
Cameron brought up a great point while we were playing it because he was watching us play it, and he was like, compare this opening to the opening of Final Fantasy VII, where you just get dropped into the mission right at the beginning and you just go. Yeah, they're telling you stuff along the way and there are slower points, but it is seriously a giant cutscene at the beginning. You do a little bit of gameplay with the Phoenix stuff, the in media res like bits of it that has no context.
For that section, it's because spoiler, I guess if you haven't played the demo, but later on you do another section where I'll just rewind this, where you're fighting as an icon, like a beast. In this beginning one, all they really let you do, I mean, I guess they let you evade, but I just don't think it actually matters.
No,
I think regardless of what you do.
You don't have a health bar or anything. Yeah. There's no way it matters.
And later in the game, or in the demo, you do it again, and it seems like it maybe is actual battle. And it's obviously, it's really pretty. It's like Gandalf with the Balrog type visuals and shit.
Yeah.
But it opens with this, and I see why people were like, there's this big opening, and you're fighting icons, and then, all right, here's this character, and we're going to teach you how to hold up on the joystick, and then here's another cutscene, and then here's these other people, and this lady, and this Titan, and he's kind of bad, and then the Titan scene, which is fucking awesome, and there's people dying and stuff, but...
Yeah, and I'm sure that it's just that it's the opening, and they want to do so much setup, but man, that's not a good... For people that have goblin brain.
Right.
It's a terrible start.
There's an asterisk on all of this, but for someone like me or you that's like, you're coming fresh off of fucking Elden Ring.
Or playing Street Fighter.
Or Devil May Cry, which it has the combat designer from, who I saw something that he was saying that like 16 is like his opus or whatever, which is awesome. Like that just the combat is awesome. Like I want to play that. We'll probably do it after this. I want to play that like
the
combat.
Iconic challenge. Yeah.
It's a thing where it's like introduce the characters, get you into it. I understand that they do this for casual audience that has never played a video game, but I think it goes back to like I think it's something that Square has come under fire before in Kingdom Hearts or different stuff, that it is the opposite of show don't tell. It's almost the Kojima thing of like, no, we're going to tell and tell and tell and tell and then show, and then by the time they show it, it's like, yeah, I know that this is so and so's son that's Mr. Peanut Butter Man, because he's wearing peanut butter on his shirt and he just said, I'm Mr. Peanut Butter Man. Let me tell you why I'm Mr. Peanut Butter Man.
I have to put an asterisk on everything of just, my brain is broken in a lot of ways when it comes to stuff like this. And this game especially is bad in that after playing the combat, I'm like, man, I know how good that is, and I want to engage with it. Really, I'll
cut to it in a second, that it's really pretty and really like the effects and your movement options, and he's just really responsive. It's very like Devil May Cry and how it feels.
And I really like Magic Burst, stuff like that, where it's this optional thing that you can do to get extra damage. I mean, in Devil May Cry, there was like the trigger, almost like L canceling of like, okay, I do the thing, and then I also have to do the follow-up, and then I can get more
rhythm game.
Yeah. And that's what the Magic Burst feels like. Once you get the timing down, then it feels like, okay, I'm doing my combo, but it's also like rhythm game stuff going.
Yeah. No, I was just going to skip ahead to combat. Yeah, this is a prime example of something where it's like...
He did it exactly!
He did it! He fucking did it! That was something that happened when we were playing the demo, and I was so shocked that it was in there. Not shocked, I'm not trying to be super dramatic with my fucking language, but that like...
I was very surprised.
It was a thing where I'm so surprised, because I'm sure they did so much playtesting that in any game, not even just Souls games that we're always jacking off and obsessed with, but just universally in games that are you're shooting, so Destiny or The Division, like they know that your primary source of interaction is shooting, so if you have an obstacle in your way, it's like, oh, it's probably red and I probably have to shoot it.
Right.
I feel like it's very similar in action games where it's like, oh, I have this big sword, there's these clearly half broken wooden things, oh, I'll probably hit it. That's so like reassuring to see that I'm not as goopy as I quite think, that like
right.
That's the shit I mean of unnecessary, like I'm more like prestige cinematic game shit of like, no, you have to hit X and then do this quick time event or whatever for different stuff that it's like, and again, once you're in the combat, it's so fucking fun. Like it's
precision dodge
and
into like the shift strike.
This is the shit I mean.
Yeah, this is
there's no loading
screen.
There's no loading screen or anything. It's just like, and I get the adaptive triggers and stuff are cool, but it's not like a mini game or something. It's literally just.
That's a good point though. Of maybe there was some requirement, since it is a PS5 exclusive, like make sure you use the adaptive triggers.
I bet that's exactly what it is. But there's other times where, here, is it going to do it again?
No, this is the little cutscene, isn't it?
No, it's another one.
It is. This one might actually be a little bit of loading.
Yeah, that's true.
That one might be a transition one, but the other one definitely was not.
But I think that's the thing, is that it's like Naughty Dog, God of War, or Santa Monica, like all these, again, like cinematic. I guess the best way to explain it, other than it sounds kind of condescending to say like prestige games, but like
that is
Sony,
the term that a lot of
Sony first party games, like I've never really minded in those when they do stuff like that, because it usually is kind of obvious that it is a loading screen, that like Nathan is
7 remake.
going through a tight crack, or like Ghost of Tsushima or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
that
7,
it's like it's fine, but
7 remake is loaded with that
because it is loading screens.
Yeah, because it's on PS4, right?
Right.
Like, it is
right.
chock full of that, and I really hope that Rebirth doesn't, because man, is it a drain on the pacing.
Mm-hmm. Like Uncharted 2 is often cited specifically for having really good pacing, and I think that it's because of the specific stuff we're talking about of like cutscene and then gameplay, cutscene, gameplay. It's not only a really good balance of that, and it's funny I use that as an example because Sean brought that up as far as like a good example of in media res, like in Uncharted 2 he's on the fucking train and you're climbing up and we're teaching you how to play, and then there's combat, and then we jump forward and here's another little cutscene, and now you know how to do that, so here's gameplay. And this just, it's, you know, it's kind of all over the place, but that like that game just as a whole being a prestige cinematic game, like my goopy goblin ass, and I mean the Last of Us video, I talked about it all the time, that even my ass being super goopy, they are so good at that, and also the writing and performances and stuff, that like Uncharted 2 or Uncharted 4, it's like I'm engaged. When you sit down to play a game, you know that the main thing you're looking for is to be engaged. And I think that what you had said is that like there is maybe interesting series of systems that you want to like gain some mastery over and just interact with and engage with.
Yeah. And sometimes that mastery is, you know, like action, timing dependent things. Sometimes it's just figuring out how all the systems come together.
Like Stardew Valley.
Like Stardew Valley or Factorio or all kinds of
building. The game me and Kate make fun of you for playing?
No, that's Mindustry. I actually don't really play Factorio, but I feel like more people would recognize it. Mindustry is the tower defense, like base building game that is great, but that's very
pretty ugly. Not even ugly, but just like, anyways. So
Yeah, so for me, when I sit down to play one of those, I'm sitting down to be engaged and to like think about what I'm doing.
That's nice.
Yeah, no, he's getting all these. This is what I was trying to do and I could not.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I am confronted with 30 minutes of cutscenes, I am just checked out, because like that is not at all what I came here for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on me. Like
right.
Depending on the game,
you're not everyone. Yeah.
Well, and also it's on me if I go to a game that isn't that, or a game like this that's what it's going to be.
Ghost of Tsushima, and then it's like, hey, you knew you had bought a ticket for this.
Right.
You knew you had bought a pretzel, and you're like, what? How come there's not more hot dog? It's like, that's a bad example, but
Tsushima is actually a really good one, because I mean that's one that you complain about a lot of. Why can't you skip the cutscenes?
I don't know if I've ever talked about that, like tweeting about it or in a video, but I really love Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, it's like my wallpaper on here. It's gorgeous. The combat, the boss fights, the progression, the like it's very simple platforming, but it feels really smooth. And I'm going to jump here, and then jump on a guy, and it all just works. And the online is super fun too.
Oh,
but
the online is great.
Really the only real like complaint I have in thinking about playing it again on a fresh save is that you can't skip any cutscenes, and not even just movie cutscenes, but like you talk with a lot of NPC side characters because it's an open world game, and that like it's the smallest not important mission, but it's like, oh, my husband is dead and he's over here and the bandits are over there, that it's not even this super story thing, which is fine, it doesn't need to be. And the camera zoomed out because they probably didn't animate all of the lip sync whatever, but I prefer that because the scenery is way more pretty than some lip sync whatever. But anyways, yeah, not even just the movie cutscenes, but even for the side stuff, you can skip all cutscenes and all dialogue on New Game Plus, proving that it's not hiding a loading screen. But on a first playthrough, you just can't skip any of it. And it boggles my mind. And some of the like most angry I've been at a Redditor while lurking is I looked up like Ghost of Tsushima skip cutscenes because it was driving me crazy, being like, how did they not think of this? Like, this game is so amazing. This is like the only thing I would complain about it. And I found a Reddit thread I've told Isaac about before where a guy was saying that. He was like, hey, like, I only have so much time after work, which that's an important thing to remember too. Like, everyone, has different time they can dedicate to a game. He was like, yeah, I just don't have a lot of time after work, but I really like the combat or something like that. Like, I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, is there any way to skip cutscenes? And someone was like, no. And then another person was like, oh, why not? And someone was like, oh, you can on New Game Plus. And then he was like, wow, that is so fucking stupid. Like, if you can do it, which was my reaction too after I beat it, I was like, well, if you can, why can't you do it on here? And instead of like actually responding to what he was saying of like, I just don't get why it's there, the person got like really gatekeepy and shitty and was like, well, obviously, like, this is a cinematic story game, so if you're not here for that, like, go find something else to play. And it's like, no, it's an open world game that has amazing combat and cosmetics and all this other stuff, and if someone doesn't want to interact with the story and they've already proven that they could have a skip thing in there, or even just to like, oh shit, I gotta get going, let me skip this so then I can pause and save or whatever, like, which I think it has autosave too. That's not a good example, but anyways, that was very long-winded, but just that I remember it made me so furious of just that someone would be gatekeeping in that way of like, hey, this literally isn't harming your experience at all. You can play the game and never skip a single cutscene. Why can't someone else play it and skip cutscenes? Yeah. Like, why would you withhold that? Like, there's so many games to play right now that I probably won't play it. Well, I definitely won't play it immediately, but I am actually excited to play this, or even just like watch you play it on the Discord. I might even like doing that better just because I feel like it's been a while since I've watched you blast through something. Yeah. I bet Cameron would like it too, but...
Yeah, because I don't think he has any desire to play it, but
no,
he'd be happy to be there.
No, he loves being in the peanut gallery, the penis gallery. Well, speaking of which, let's just go play video games. But anyways, I hope future me editing this that there's something.
Yeah, good luck.
Something,
good luck, future
something salvageable. Yeah, let's go play this. Get some dinner. I think that's all she wrote.
Hopefully you get something.
Oh, I will. I definitely will. You want to say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye now. Goodbye.